All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
Good morning. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. Wherever you are joining us, we love having you in the mix. Just got a cool, I got to call it a text message. It's not really a text message, I guess.
Why don't you just text it?
It's not a text. It's in the chat. You can chat with us on YouTube. Those of you who joined live, you can. And even if you're watching in replay, you can chat. You can leave comments, of course. Anyway.
Can you let him finish, sir?
I know. Let me finish, please. So someone just said, Peace Rose. I want to say a special good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Waiting for the program to begin. I'm hooked, Marky. Listening from Studio City, California. Shout out to Studio City, California. Mark, don't forget the simulcast with Tim Conway Jr. is tonight at the Anaheim White House. That's true. I'll be in the simulcast there. Good morning to all. Julie, also in SoCal. What up, Julie? Good morning.
Morning.
Mm-hmm. Joanne, thank you. Crashed on the beach.
Morning.
Good morning. And good morning to all the kids, boys and girls, of all shapes and sizes, of all ages. You're all welcome here. Welcome to fabulous producer John Daly.
Fabulous producer John Daly.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
That was pretty loud. I know.
Yeah.
Man,
Settle down.
Good morning.
Blow me out with that good morning, man. Come on now. Come on, sit on down. I just woke up. Come on.
Kim, how are you?
Tim, how are you?
Good morning.
Mhm. Good morning, Kim. How are you feeling with the cold?
I'm all right. Thank you for asking.
You sound kind of as though the lower register is perhaps being enhanced a bit by some sort of sinus condition.
How
Yeah,
low
baby.
can you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually am a
I
woman. It doesn't sound like it, but I am.
I think it sounds very much like it, actually. There was a guy who used to do a show. I think it was a syndicated show called, what was it called? His name was Don something, I want to say. No, Donnie Simpson was a big DJ, and he sounded like that.
Oh.
It's Donnie Simpson at night on WKYS. That was on in Washington, D.C., where I grew up. But there was also a guy who did a national show. It was like it was kind of like the love thing. It was a whole love thing, but he talked like
The
that.
shadow knows.
Yeah, it was very shadowy. It's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of shadow, I do have a major announcement, and then I want to show you something that happened to me last night, and I got it on video, and I want to share it with you. I hope you'll appreciate it. I also want to get into some serious news stuff. The COVID numbers are insane in California. I don't know if you've seen the COVID stats, but the jump in just a month in COVID, 63%.
Crazy.
That with flu and RSV. This is they talk about this as this, vector of problems when it comes to infectious disease for the winter. And they may actually be right to sound that clarion call. But we'll get to that in a moment. I'll also get to the Supreme Court and some solutions for the biased nature of the court from David Katz, who joins us in the next hour. We inherited him or poached him from the Pat Thurston show. Speaking of Pat Thurston, did you see the announcement? She's going to KCBS Radio.
I saw it. I saw
That's
it.
kind of cool. So
She's
shout
gonna
out
be
to Pat.
she's gonna be a news anchor.
And you know what she gets to do now?
That's right.
Oh, weather. She does traffic and weather together.
That's what she does. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't give her too hard a time, people.
Traffic and weather together on the ones. Yeah, traffic and weather together. I'm Pat Thurston. Let's first check Golden Gate Bridge. You're on and off the brakes through the toll plaza. Metering lights still out on the Bay Bridge.
That's pretty good.
Let's go to
it's not
Ede in Berkeley for an update.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I'm very happy that for Pat. I adore Pat. She's going to come back on the show. I exchanged a text with her last night. But I'm going to say something. She's a brilliant talk show host, and she belongs doing talk radio. And I hope, and I think they will. This is what I think they'll do if they're smart. They'll warm the audience up to her being on KCBS as an anchor. They'll get used to her voice on KCBS. and then they'll give her a talk show. I believe at some point, one of those day parts, they'll give to Pat for an hour
either
or for whatever.
before or after they go bankrupt, because
they are not in good shape. That company.
That's what the rumor is.
Do you remember how Italy at the start of COVID was like 2 weeks ahead of us? You know, they had their hospitals overflowing. They had this COVID illness and they didn't really know how it was spread, and they had everybody shut into their rooms. And you got all of these videos from Italy saying, this is what it's going to look like. We're 2 weeks ahead of you, America, you know, take precautions, socially distance, all this sort of thing. That's what KGO radio is, or was, to KCBS radio. I know everything seems great. This is in San Francisco. KCBS, for those who don't know, is this all-news station, right? And KGO, we were the talk station. So I believe, because John is right, the economic problems that afflicted KGO. Now, KGO had other problems because they didn't sell the shows or whatever you want. You know, it was not a pure economics. But economics are threatening broadcasting generally. Ad-supported broadcasting, which is what KCBS is and what KGO was. So KCBS will have their own reckoning. They're already having it. Now, they have listenership. So that's great. And I'm hoping for all of them. I love broadcast radio, so I'm hoping they do well. Somehow they get through it and can flourish. But I think John is not. I mean, John, I think is.
Well, they are one of the top stations, either one right now, one or two. I think they're number one. It's not them specifically; it's the company that owns them.
Right, and I would also say that, I mean, this is probably years away. So most of the people that we love and who work there now probably have nothing to worry about it. But eventually, I mean, it's not like the Italy America thing, like which was really so close in terms of the chronology. But I just everybody in broadcasting, I've heard, look, you know, there are other big examples also. But I will say this, you know, you can say legacy media like KGO or KCBS we're talking about, or broadcast generally, you can say it's dying. But I would say, yeah, it is. And I've just said what I said. But there's a long way between dying and dead. So it still is a very powerful medium.
It's in hospice.
I don't know.
AM radio is in hospice, and it has
may
been
be.
for a while.
It may be in part.
Well, the ad dollars went to the internet, right? So it still exists, but the money's not there.
But not in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, things are great, right?
In Los Angeles, KFI radio, which is sort of the KGO-ish radio, a talk radio station, it's doing really well, and it is the most streamed station in all of iHeartRadio, and that includes, you know, Kiss FM and Z100 in New York, and so it's an amazing fact that it's more streamed than all of those music stations. This is an AM talk station, and their sports talk does well. They don't do sports gambling talk; they do sports talk.
It's on its way,
but
no.
Look, this all started with Pat. I'm so happy for her. She's a star, and I want to see good things happen for her. And I think everybody at KCBS, as John says, they're riding, a good wave, and they can just continue to ride it. But they're in a world which continues to be eaten away. Hey, look, in a way, it's a better world than ours. We have to sit here and pitch you every day like it's a telethon. You know what I mean? So please don't. I'm not showboating. This is. But in any case, I'm very happy for Pat. Something happened last night, and then I want to get to the major announcement. Can I share the thing that happened last night? Last night, I went to the basketball game at the last minute, and Mike Hendricks says, I joined in slightly late. Can you repeat what Pat will be doing for the news station? She's an anchor. She's a news anchor. So
yeah, she's going to start out, I believe, like overnights, right, Kim? I think she's going to do the late shift. She's training right now, or she'll be training on Thursday. But the unofficial rumor is that they will integrate talk into their format.
So she will get a talk show. That's
very
cool.
What the rumor is.
Well, now I am envious.
But
the thing about, what is this? Okay. The thing about last night is I went to this ball game at the last minute because my pal said, do you want to join me on the floor? Okay, sitting on the court at the Lakers game. And I said, are you kidding? I've never been on the floor at the Lakers game.
You were on the floor at the Lakers game?
Yeah, so exactly. I thought, oh my God, yes, every flavor of yes, I'm going. So I meet my pal, Ben Mankiewicz, you know him from TCM. He'll come on the show. And our other friend, Kelly O'Coin, who plays, if you watch Billions, he plays Dollar Bill on Billions. And they're two really fun guys, and I've known them for a very long time. So Ben is the one who gave me the shout out. And you pull up, you go in, and you're sitting right on the floor. And I've never, ever sat on this floor. I mean, it's spectacular, right? You're right there with I don't need to tell you. So something happened, though, nothing to do with basketball. Okay, you don't have to know anything about teams or players or anything to appreciate what I'm about to show you. During one of the timeouts, I think it's between quarters, they bring somebody out to shoot one of those long shots for a lot of money. You've seen them before, right, Kim? Where they shoot the ball, and if you get it, you get whatever it is. In this case, $75,000. Okay,
Oh.
John, you're familiar with what I'm talking about?
$75,000. I'm very familiar.
You're familiar with that? Okay, so if I can do this properly, I'll show you, I was just kind of rolling video on it. And it's also my Instagram feed if you want to see that, which is...
Do we want to place wagers on whether or not this will work?
Yeah. Do you want to place a wager on whether it'll work?
I think it will. I have faith in you.
Kim, do you think I can do this or not? Share this
I
screen?
think I believe in you.
You're doing
Okay.
a great job, MT.
Thank you very much. I believe I will be able to do this.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, okay. Here we go. Let's see how we do.
Look at you.
Yeah. Okay, now watch closely. This is for $75,000. He lets it go. He got it.
Oh, wow. He's Steph
I
Curry'd
couldn't
it.
believe it.
Yeah.
Nothing but net. Come on. $75,000 this guy just got.
Was that from half court?
Oh, I just think it's the greatest, man. I might have been more excited than that guy was. All right. Bravo.
Somebody's at the door.
Thank you. How do I stop it, John?
You click on stop.
Stop
Okay,
screen.
Thank you.
Great
Did
job.
you? Thank
Stop
you.
sharing.
Is it off now? Is it?
Yep.
That's pretty good.
It was good, right? I mean, that was worth sharing. I really wanted to share that with you. I thought it was.
It looked like that
extraordinary.
money was it was a sponsorship from MGM.
Yeah,
what that was?
exactly.
So
Right.
he got money from the same people who are giving money to KGO.
All right. Well, you know what? Good for him.
Money for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Let it be. You know what I mean? I
the
thought it was
spread?
terrific. Yeah.
And this is their new hoax.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that there has been a major announcement from the Mark merch people.
A major announcement
Yeah.
from the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah.
A major announcement.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We still don't know what the end of that is. But the major announcement for Cyber Monday was that there was a special at the Mark merch site, getmarkmerch.com. Don't we have that somewhere on this? You can put up on the screen, John?
Yeah.
Please. Anyway, the Get Mark merch site has a bunch of stuff that's really cool. In fact, I'll show you some of it. Getmarkmerch.com. The discount code Iron Rod, which was for yesterday, has been extended to today.
Oh, nice.
And they had a lot of stuff and traffic yesterday. And apparently there were people trying to buy the pot holders.
Oh.
And there was a glitch in the pot holder thing. So we've extended it so that you can get the pot holders are a kind of a fun thing and a good thing. So if you want to get a pot holder, you can get it. And you can enter the discount code Iron Rod. You can get it to all things.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Again, it's not that kind of pot, but thank you.
Well, it could be. I mean, you
It could, yeah. I
fashion
guess
it.
you could keep your pot
Yeah.
there.
Gotta go get my touch tool.
Oh, that's right, your touch tool. I wanted to get you a shot of, and then I will truly move on. But is this? Can you see that? Can you see that screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Mark Merch site. You go to getmarkmerch.com, and it scrolls down some stuff about us, I guess, and there's a shot of me when I was happy. Welcome to the Mark Merch universe, it says. And this is, you can see on the right, the brass touch tool, which is Kim's favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also good value at $12. Of course, all the money goes to the show here, keeping us on. KJO and Exile t-shirts, there's still a few, I guess, through the holidays. This is an interesting caffeinated note cube.
Okay.
I guess they say caffeinated because it's got a coffee mug on it.
That'll fill up quite a bit of the stocking. Kind of like that.
Yeah, that's a good stuff. There are a lot of these stocking stuffer things. There's, of course, the hat. And this is the basic tee. This, though, was one of the big items that sold yesterday. The ceramic Christmas ornament.
Because nothing says happy holidays like your face.
You know what? Thank you. I know you're being sarcastic, but
No,
it's a fun item. And
really,
I'll tell you
all
that you can also get it as a globe or in a round form. It's a globe,
that's
but
nice.
it's definitely
That's nice.
round. And
Yeah.
you can hang it. It doesn't have to be a tree. You can hang it from anything, of course.
You
That's
can
the
hang it
big
like an
thing.
air freshener in your car.
That's right. And what better? That is a great idea. If you're a Lyft or Uber driver, wouldn't that be just the thing you want to share? We have the beanies, the Mark Thompson Show embroidered beanies, the poker cards or playing cards,
Yeah.
the stickers. These are great. Look at these stickers, Kim. This is what your house needs. I may be getting your...
When I introduce stickers, I find them everywhere.
Exactly.
but
exactly. I want you to see that KJO in exile everywhere you look.
I might want to put your face on the back of my car. It could happen.
Anyway,
I mean, then it's like we're always together. We're riding around, picking up the kids.
there's
me
a
and Mark.
V-neck tee that's just been added. The throw pillow is only days old. I think it's only been on the site for, there you go. For
That's a really
literally
good price
24
for the
hours.
throw pillow. I
I
like
think
that.
it is a good price. It's priced for the holidays, and you get 15% off of that
Yeah.
with the discount code Iron Rod. So anyway, those are some of the things that are getmarkmerch.com. So that's all of that. Meantime, even if you don't get the merch or whatever, if you're here, we appreciate you being here, and smash the like button.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss. I wanted to mention to you that Will Smith went on The Daily Show, and I have that for you. I have a chunk of that interview for you, and I wanted to share it with you and get your thoughts on it. I will ask you a producer question, fabulous producer John Daly. I can do it now, or I can do it after Steve Moskowitz. Is Steve going to join us now?
Fabulous producer John Daly.
What
I think
do
you
I
need
do?
you need to go with it, and we'll make it work.
Okay, so Will Smith was on The Daily Show, as I say, with Trevor Noah, and they're pals, and he got Will to talk about his new project, which is called Emancipation, but he also got him to talk about
His other
what
new
happened-
project,
which
rehabilitation.
is rehabilitating his name.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, emancipation or rehabilitation. So I'll play you a little bit, and the only reason I'm not showing it to you is because we get a copyright strike if I show it to you. Yesterday, I'll tell you something bizarre. This is the world we live in, so you understand. It's a lot more than just cracking the mic here. And we'll do this when we come back. I want to talk to Steve first. But yesterday, we have the executive producer of the special Reindeer in here. It airs tonight on CBS at 9:00 after the Rudolph hour. Then Reindeer in Here airs, okay? And Reindeer in Here is a great animated thing. It's chock full of celebrities and stars, voices, Jim Gaffigan among them. So we have him on, Lino DeSalvo, and he's great. It was great. In fact, Kim even sent me a text saying, wow, that was really great. I really enjoyed that conversation. So during that conversation, because we're talking about his project, we run a little trailer from the show. It's a commercial, right? And what happens, John?
Copyright strike times 2.
Yeah, we got 2 copyright strikes because of it. So you can see, even as we're promoting a project that the guest is involved in, we still can get a copyright strike. So when we come back after Steve, I will play you the audio, though, unedited audio from The Daily Show and the conversation with Will Smith. But I can't actually show it to you because of the copyright problems. You know, it just seems as though they're unrelenting, you know, so you get it. Anyway, we'll do that as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about putting it together for Steve Moskowitz, everybody? Steve, how are you, sir? Good to have you in the mix.
Doing great. That's, you know, Mark, it's the perfect thing you're talking about. The legal technicalities so getting in the way of life and business.
This is true. Yeah, that's why I like the fact that you're a lawyer. You know, you're not just a tax accountant.
Oh, it makes a huge difference because, as you know, when I set foot first day in law school as a student, I already had a bachelor's degree in accounting, a master's degree in accounting. I was already a practicing CPA. I went to law school to learn this stuff that the Fortune 500 did because I worked for, when I started my career, I worked for a big firm whose clients were the Fortune 500. And I saw these giant companies making incredible money and not paying taxes. And I said, what's the secret? I want to know the secret. And I bet that secret can be used for much smaller companies, and it can. That's why I became a tax attorney.
Well, I mean, I think about it when you're an advocate for me, that, you know, you're not only a guy who's watching the numbers, but you actually know the law. And I think that that's so important as an advocate. So your firm, I feel, offers sort of another layer of advocacy.
Absolutely. And a lot of times what happens is people go to a tax attorney, says, do X. Then they take X to the CPA to prepare the return. And the CPA says, I'm not doing that. Well, wait a minute. And then the lawyer says, well, he doesn't do tax returns. So what do? You get this great advice, but the CPA says, no, he won't do it. He thinks it's wrong. In our firm, we handle everything for you. The advice, filing the tax returns. And today we're going to talk about two things. One is, here it is. This week is turning into December. So there's two types of tax planning we talk about. One is year-end tax planning, which is hurry up and do this stuff before December 31st. And that's good because we want to not pay taxes more than we have to. But then there's another form of tax planning that we really like, which is year-round tax planning, because a tax return should really be a summarization of year-round tax. And we go ahead and we do your accounting and planning for you. And it's not just for your taxes. You can use the accounting information that we give you to make a better business, excuse me, run it better, and make more money, to maximize your profit, to optimize your profit. Not to mention telling you things like ERC, where today, just today, I was on the phone, just a little bit before your show, with a CPA and his client. The client heard me talk about ERC. CPA didn't know about it. So this is where the government is giving away up to $26,000 for every employee that you've had in 2020 and 2021 that qualifies. And there's two different ways to qualify. One way is by a certain drop in gross revenue. That's what most of the firms are doing. It's easy. But there's another way. The other way is a facts and circumstances test. It's a lot more complex. It takes a lot more time. Sometimes we need multiple visits with a client. That's okay. We don't care. The only thing we care about is getting you every dollar to which you're legally entitled.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as the kind of thing that it's not so simple. It seems as though it is, you know, as particularly in the case of ERC. As you say, you can get sucked into, do I qualify or don't I? But you can see how someone with a granular knowledge of tax law might be able to get you money from the government that you might otherwise not get at another firm. So reach Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. And you can also reach him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. You spell Moskowitz, Moskowitz. You spell LLP, LLP. You put them together, you got MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Talk next hour, Steve.
Thanks, Mark.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smack Smash that like button, will you? Do me a favor. Will you do me a favor? Will you do me a favor, baby? Smash that like button like a boss. Yeah, you know how to do it. Just smash it.
Smash it with your iron
rod,
rod.
or just absolutely smash.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely
Absolutely
smash. Even if you're watching in replay, I mean, especially if you're watching in replay, many people, I think, we get a lot of replay viewers and love my replay viewers. Shout out to my replay viewers right now. Shout out if you're watching in replay. Smash it like a boss. Not only play some Will Smith, he was with Trevor Noah's Daily Show, and here's a little bit. We may stop it along the way, and I'll be curious as to your impressions. You can hit us in the chat, and you let me know what you think.
Yeah. You are one of the biggest movie stars that has ever existed. One of my favorite people that I've ever seen inhabit a screen.
Thank you, man.
And then you had the Oscars.
Yeah.
Where in one night
I have no independent recollection of.
I can only imagine because you won your first Oscar that night, a well-deserved Oscar that night. But it is simultaneously, in many ways, not the worst. I won't say the worst because I know the life you've lived. I've read the book, but it is one of the best days of your life and one of the worst days of your life. And I'd love to know. I mean, just us talking. First of all, what has the journey been like since that day? Like,
Johnny, will you show me a picture of Will Smith? I know you're talking to everybody in the chat, but can you there you go. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Let me just, what has the journey been like? You can see him warming up to it.
What has the journey been like since that day? Like, because everyone speculates, everyone just sees it and goes, I think this, I think that, I think this, I think that. What has it been like for you?
Yeah, that was a horrific night, as you can imagine. There's many nuances and complexities to it, but at the end of the day, I lost it, and I guess what I would say, you just never know what somebody's going through. In the audience.
This is an attempt, let me just say, and I think it's pretty clear what's going on, but it's an attempt to contextualize things. And that's not completely unfair. Everything exists in a context, right? But this is so outside the bounds of acceptable behavior that you somehow need to build a contextualized reason that is way beyond anything that we could understand, I think that's what he's doing. Again, it doesn't make it untrue, but it is an attempt to, if you will, bring something that is way outside the bounds of acceptable behavior into some spectrum of normalcy. It's a pretty tough move, I think. But we continue.
But at the end of the day, I lost it, and I guess what I would say, you just never know what somebody's going through, in the audience right now, you're sitting next to strangers, and somebody's mother died last week, somebody's child is sick. Somebody just lost their job. Somebody just found out their spouse cheated. There's all these things, and there's strangers, and you just don't know what's going on with people, And I was going through something that night, and not that justifies my behavior at all. I would just say, you're asking what did I learn, and it's that. We just got to be nice to each other, man. It's hard. And I guess the thing that was most painful for me is I took my hard and made it hard for other people, Right. And it's I understood the idea where they say hurt people.
Yeah.
And it's
I actually thought that was one of the moments where there was really a punch through, meaning he started with a point that was, in my judgment, kind of like meh. We all got to be good to each other. We all got to love each other. We got to put love out in the world. I get it. I mean, people have been saying that and putting it on T-shirts for years, right? But the hurt people, the ripple effect of what he did and how it affected careers. This is a guy who is a huge international star, and he's damaged. And in that damage, he affects other people who are also working with him, colleagues, collaborators, who don't have the huge superstar money and can't take a big hit like Will Smith can. So I actually felt, as I say, with the love thing, it was sort of like, okay, yeah, but we've heard that before. But the second point he made, which was related to how the effects of what he did that night at the Oscars affect other people and other projects, I thought that was a good one. When we continue, I will play you the rest of his comments, and you'll get a sense of this. I thought that it was fascinating, and kind of learned a couple of things, and more than anything, I'd be curious as to your impressions. You can leave them in the chat, and if you're watching in replay, just leave them in the comments. I'd really be curious to know what you thought of this Will Smith latest interaction with Trevor Noah. More as we continue. This is Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. The United States looking to advance to the round 16 at the World Cup in Qatar. After ending each of its first two games in a draw, the United States needs to beat Iran in order to get out of the group stage. The U.S. is third in Group B with 2 points after playing Wales to a 1-1 draw and England to a scoreless draw as well. Lawmakers trying quickly to draft a bill that will stop a potential rail strike. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said they'll have a bill on the floor as soon as tomorrow morning. That will include an agreement negotiated between labor unions and the railroads. The California Democrat adding the looming rail strike would result in the loss of hundreds of thousands of jobs. Governor Gavin Newsom back in California after spending the Thanksgiving holiday out of state. The governor and his family left last Sunday to spend the holiday in Hawaii. A spokesperson for the governor says that when he's on personal or family travel, his office will not provide details about his trip until his return due to security concerns. Harvey Weinstein not taking the stand at his sex crimes trial in Los Angeles. That is where he is charged with 7 counts of rape and sexual assault. His lawyers presented his case on Monday, telling the judge Weinstein would not take the stand in his own defense. The disgraced Hollywood producer is on trial for sex crimes involving 4 women, among them California's Governor Gavin Newsom's wife. She testified to being raped in a hotel room in 2005. A former Virginia State Police trooper believed to be involved in multiple murders, dead after a shootout with police in California. Authorities say 28-year-old Austin Edwards opened fire on deputies. That was on Friday in Riverside after killing a woman and an elderly couple. According to investigators, the man drove to California from Virginia to meet a teen that he'd been talking to online in what's believed to be a case of catfishing. The victims believed to be the girl's mother and grandparents. She was not hurt during that incident. Hawaii's governor is taking the podium following the eruption of Mauna Loa. Governor David Ige echoing remarks that there's currently no threat to communities. He says the lava flows are in places where there's no population. And there's a new push in Suffolk County to restrict exotic animals. Animal rights activist John DeLeonardo is proposing a ban on the use of exotic animals in traveling to people's homes.
We need to stop sloths from being brought to children's birthday parties. We need to stop sloths from being brought to children's birthday parties.
The proposed law, in part, the result of complaints against Larry Wallach, who's been accused of taking sloths to people's homes. He's argued sloths are legal to own in New York. And rare handwritten lyrics by Bob Dylan going up for auction. Dylan wrote the lyrics for Desolation Row back in 1965, went on to become one of his most famous hits. The sheets of paper he originally wrote on are hitting the market for the first time ever with an asking price of $425,000. The papers have all the original lyrics and a few edits that he made.
Hoops for that.
You have to. Yeah, I'm sorry. One courtside shot's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The original owner had been good friends with Dylan since they were kids. He said he held on to the lyrics for more than 20 years before deciding to sell them off. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. Call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL or find him online, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Their envy wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm going to have to look that one up.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Well, what up, everybody? It is great to have you in the mix. Mark Thompson Show for this Tuesday. Got the full crew for you. Actually, Tony is working KFI tonight, so he couldn't be with us, but everybody else is here. Tony is.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but he's coming up here to rebuild something. He's always.
Kim, how are you?
And Kim is here.
Fabulous
and
producer John Daly
is here, and you're there, which is the important thing. And Tony R 455. Are you kidding? With a super sticker for $49.99? I'm not gonna. But I'm close.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
But I'm close.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
That is my number to get me to this point where I'm holding it back. I'm going to give you a big shout out.
Big shout out.
It's a Dan Ashley shout out. And
thank you so much.
A British thank you so much. Thank you, Tony R455. Is that what it is? Tony R450? Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Really, really cool. Northside Service Company. Shout out to Northside Service Company.
Yeah.
$10.99 for the extreme dedication of the entire cast on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Yeah, we worked Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Well done, Northside Service Company.
Thank you so
why
much.
Go with
the British? Yes.
Why go with Southside when you could go with Northside, right?
Look, Northside. When you're lost,
right,
and you're looking for directions, what star do you look for? The Southside Star? No, the Northside Star. Come on,
right.
That's what I'm saying. Northside Service Company, love you, thank you. You are regulars here, and I very much appreciate it. You can send us super stickers. You can also send us super chats, as you're aware. By the way, the reason I got a couple of pieces of email yesterday about this. This is why I want to address it. Then I'll get back to Will Smith. Still have COVID numbers to review with David Katz in the next hour. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court and term limits and even expanding the court and realities. But I got an email or two about why people couldn't leave money in the replay. Normally in the replay, when you're on YouTube, there's a heart and there's a $ in the heart. And if you press on that, you can leave a donation, which is what we need to keep moving, unfortunately. That's just the way it is, right? We also have the Patreon and we have the PayPal, and that's all at themarkthompsonshow.com. But anyway, if you're not at themarkthompsonshow.com, you're on YouTube, you've got that thing normally. But yesterday's episode didn't have it. And people asked me, why? Why can't we leave you money when we're watching in replay? And
why are you yelling?
The reason is that yesterday's episode, for the reasons that I had mentioned about 10 minutes ago, was demonetized because we ran the trailer as a commercial for the guy's project we were talking to, Lino. It's on tonight, Reindeer in Here. But because of that, they took away the ability to monetize that way. At least that was my understanding of it. So it's all very complicated and awful.
What?
When it comes to YouTube, it's all we're learning. We're learning. And shout out to John Daly, who deals with a lot of that stuff. John's really been great. Producing the show is one thing. We're all having to now scramble and do stuff that we didn't have to do on the radio show. And one of the things that we've had to do is deal with YouTube and YouTube questions and monetization. And John deals with a lot of that. So really appreciate John. I also, though, know that he wants me to mention the poll, which is up. And I didn't mention it to this point. Kim, we've been trying to decide what to do with this. The you know.
The tarp.
You call it a tarp. It's actually a banner. But I don't know what should happen to it. It can't live there. So you move it over.
It's for when we have to bury the body, carry it out to the back of the car.
What are the choices again?
It's for Mark Murder Monday, right?
No.
So the choices are keep it, move it to the right,
okay,
auction it off, or bury it already. In a quiet ceremony, of course.
In a quiet ceremony. And yesterday, this is the second and last day of the poll. Yesterday, keep it won by a lot.
Yeah, 45%.
Which really bums me out. I mean, I see moving it over, but keeping it, and then of course I get all this email. Well, you need to get a white one, and you got to have it a matte white, and it's like, guys. First of all, this is $88, and it was like all I could do to scrape together the $88 for that. So we're not deep pocketed to get like a bunch of different banners.
We have different numbers today.
Wait a minute. Would you say
winning.
this is a major announcement?
It's an upset.
No.
A pending major announcement. We only have 267 votes in.
All right, then I'll hold off on the major announcement. Go ahead. What is the vote so far?
Well, right now, auction it off is leading at 32%. Move it to the right is in second place with 31%, and keep it is in third place with 29%.
Wow, that is good news. I want to get rid of it. So auctioning it off is where I want to be. So thank you, all of you who've voted for auctioning it off. You can vote on YouTube during the show, right? Once the show is done, the voting is closed. Am I right, John?
That's true. The polling place will end.
The polling ends. You've got to close the polls sometime. So they'll close at noon Pacific time today.
So we'll just keep running this poll until Mark gets the result he wants.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, John did something quite... Kim, before we went on today, John said, you want to just go best 2 out of 3? Yeah, I do. You're not wrong, John. I don't... it doesn't work there. So it either moves over or, I don't know, we'll figure it out. All right, can we continue with Will Smith a little bit? Then I'll get to COVID numbers, I'll get to Supreme Court and more. I had Law and Disorder scheduled for today as well, but let's hear a little bit more of Will Smith. This is Will Smith on The Daily Show talking about the Oscar incident. Again, he was contextualizing it. He was trying to put it into some world whereby we could, in a sense, understand how he lost it. But then he started talking about the fact that what he did affects others, and that's the most painful part. So back to Will Smith talking to Trevor Noah.
And I guess the thing that was most painful for me is I took my hard and made it hard for other people,
Right.
And it's like I understood the idea where they say hurt people,
Yeah.
And it's like...
It's interesting. I remember, again, everybody was speculating. One of my friends called me and we're talking. Everyone's got these opinions. And then someone said, I feel like we saw the real Will Smith in that moment because there's a guy who's so full of love and so positive. But I feel like in that moment we saw the real Will Smith. And I said, and not because I know you, but I said, honestly, no, if anything, I feel like it was the opposite. Like, you talk in your book about growing up so afraid of conflict. You grow up in your book talking about how you were always afraid to fight with, how you were afraid to... For me, it felt like in watching that moment, I felt like you were like, it's like, in a weird way, it's like you stood up for the wrong thing at the wrong time, in a way.
Do you know
what I'm saying? It felt like you'd taken everything, because here we are, human to human, man to man, but like, people have said some shitty things about you and your family.
Absolutely.
You're a human being. It felt like, and I would say this to people, I was like, it's becoming relentlessly shitty now. And people think it's okay.
Yes.
That's the thing. People think it's okay. And not Chris, by the way. I'm talking about people, the internet, etc. But it felt like this was Will Smith for the first time going, okay, is this how you want me to respond or not?
Yeah. No, it was, it was a lot of things. It was the little boy that watched his father beat up his mother. It's, all of that just bubbled up in that moment. That's not who I want to be. Right. You've known me for a long time, so you know me personally, so but, y'all might not know.
No, you know.
It's like that's not who I want to be, man. I'm trying to,
I also think that's not who you are. I'll be honest with you. I think it's not who you are. I think everybody can make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in my honest opinion, I think how I think of living my life.
Now,
as I say,
now I'm crying for real. Okay.
No. But I mean this honestly. I'll tell you why. But I'll tell you why. Because so on my side as a human being, I go, the reason it was shocking is because that's not who you are.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Exactly.
I saw, for instance, there was an article that was written, I think it was a Hollywood Reporter or whatever. They had a list of...
I have to say this. There's a part of this, and he is being a good friend right now, Trevor Noah, in the rehabilitation effort that Will Smith is, of course, part of. And I'm not... It's not some dastardly thing where he's plotting his rehabilitation. He just is trying to explain himself to get back into the good graces of the public. He was a beloved celebrity and movie star, and now people are more conflicted about him. It's interesting and weird and a little bit bizarre to hear Will Smith, who is obviously just sick of, I mean, he knows he has to do this, but he's been through therapy about it. He's hidden. He's, interacted with Jada over it. And there was all that stuff with the red table. I mean, he's got you talk about sifting through the ashes of something you did. He's doing that to the nth degree, right?
Did he go to rehab? I think when you're in Hollywood, you have to go to rehab.
Is that how it works?
Regardless of the issue.
I thought, to be honest, don't you have to go to a homeless kitchen and serve meals? That too.
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah, go ahead. Ken.
He doesn't have the body language of someone who's come full circle. He doesn't have the body language of someone who's like open and willing and able to talk about it. He's still very uncomfortable, very closed off, like someone still in crisis. And so no matter how hard Trevor Noah was trying, it just didn't come off well. I agree with someone in the chat who just said the interview was icky. And all I could really hear was, over and over again. You can't, you can't rely on those words if you're going to try to make a point, I don't think.
Jada had nothing to do with it.
Well, I think Jada did have something to do with it. I think that, the way that thing went down is that he was laughing at what was a tepid reference. I mean, we talked about it here. We kind of broke it down. And I'm talking about in the Oscars, the Chris Rock joke was just tepid, it was no big deal. And he's smiling politely, which is what you do as somebody makes fun of you or whatever. And then he looked over at Jada, or at least Jada was not having it, right? And then he felt, it seems, obviously I'm reading stuff into it, like he had to step up. I mean, they did this thing, which is just so outrageous. I mean, it's crazy. But similarly, the apology, and I'll play you the rest of this, so there's only a couple of minutes more. The apology, and then the way that his friend, Trevor Noah, is trying to assist it. And again, they might be sincere, but you can see how Will Smith basically is letting him go, and he's just going, yeah, as you say, Kim, he's going, yeah. And he is essentially grabbing any flotilla or what are those, the flotation devices, that they throw at you as you drown in the water. Yeah. Any flotation device he can. So it's sort of like, yeah. I mean, in a way, I would have liked to, if I'd advised him, I would have gone Jeffrey Toobin on it. I would have.
Wait, what?
It was. I would have. Well, not
the original.
I mean, his apology.
Whoa!
It was wrong. It was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Yeah,
that's a whole different interview.
Right, but I do believe that Toobin was
a flawed human being who makes mistakes.
Right, Toobin said things that Will Smith should have said, and the idea that it existed in a context. Of course it existed in a context. Every action exists in a context. Me speaking to you today exists in a context. I just think that trying to contextualize it so it becomes acceptable is a mistake. It's not the best part of me, but maybe it's the best he could do. I guess I'm just trying to say, we kind of know apologies on this show.
Yes, we do.
I was wrong.
Period.
Yeah, I mean, he could have just gone with that. He could have apologized.
I am a black man.
Well, no, I mean, though that was Stephen A. Smith. I don't think that applies in this case.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Start with the Asian community, and you could work out from that. It was really... I thought it was a bit tortured. I just felt the whole process was tortured. What are they saying in the chat? Are they in the chat?
Yvonne makes a good point. She's asking, can't he act now when explaining it? Yeah, where's his acting? I thought he was the best actor.
Something I was thinking about is what Trevor Noah, and you may be playing this coming up, he says that a person shouldn't be judged by one moment. But in some cases, one moment, especially of someone that has a slick Hollywood persona, one moment is all we really get to see the real you. So I'm kind of conflicted as to whether is that one moment showing us who you really are, or is it unfair to judge someone by that one moment? I kind of go back and forth between the two. I
love that we don't judge people based on one moment, but it really depends what the moment is, doesn't it? I mean, it's a great thing to say, but it depends on what the one moment
Whether
is.
or not it's assault.
Right, exactly. I mean, I
Well,
I know that I don't think you should. I don't think you should judge people on one moment in general. But there are moments that people are capable of producing that, unfortunately, require judgment.
Right.
You know.
I mean, you see the climax in a movie where it will say, you know, in this one moment is a true test of character. You know, will you act with honor or will you not? Like, so, I mean, it's perhaps in some cases there are moments in people's lives where they have to make a choice, and that one moment stands out to represent the best of who they are or the worst. And is that what we saw here or not? Or
I feel like what Kim just said should have had music behind it. All right, let's get back to Will Smith.
Problematic actors or whatever. I was personally offended for you and Letitia, funny enough, for a different reason, but they had you guys in a list where I was like, wait, some of these people are here for sleeping with underage kids. These people are here for abusing their spouses. And again, what you did was up. I'll always tell you that. I love Chris. I'm friends with him. I love you. I'm friends with. But I was like, this is up. But I was like, but it's not the same world. And that's where it was weird, especially I find, you know, because there were all these dynamics. So I know that as black people will be together and be like, what was Will doing? What the hell happened here? Right? But then I know a lot of black people were like, you know, when people came out and they were like, he should go to jail. And we were like, you need to relax yourself. It was a weird, like some people were overreacting, which made some people underreact. You know?
Yeah. I don't know who underreacted, but... Yeah. 2 or 3 moments. That's all you have to be a hero. Colossus in Deadpool. How about Eric Kennedy with the Colossus reference? The Deadpool reference. I don't know.
No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words.
Yes, that was the preacher who was the kick down the door to my chief.
I apologize to all who have been hurt.
Yeah.
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Yeah, there you go.
It's kind of like when you have a fight with your significant other and it has nothing to do with that current moment, right? There's other stuff going on.
Right. I think clearly that's true. No one is beyond blame in many circumstances and contexts. I certainly have my share of regrets, says Flo. Perhaps Mr. Smith needs to keep working on himself, as do many of us.
I apologize to every preacher and pastor.
Yeah. Immortal Tiger says, Trevor sounds like his agent. It's true. I thought beyond just Will Smith, thank you for making that point, Immortal Tiger. Beyond just Will Smith, I thought the standout thing about that back and forth between them was the way that Trevor Noah was throwing him all those flotation devices, you know, really trying to explain it. I know you personally. I know that's not you. You get a lot of, and that stuff's effective, you know, but
it's beyond chummy. It's very Chris Cuomo.
Yeah, it is. It's very Chris Cuomo. It is. Yeah.
First, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You, Chris.
You're welcome.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
It's not.
Sorry,
it's
sorry
really
about your show.
It's really tough if you go punching people. It really, really is tough if you go punching people. So anyway, that's the deal on Trevor, and you know, I think, as I said,
what can you tell us about the scene?
What can you tell us about the scene? What's coming up, John Daly? We've got Kim's news. I've got David Katz. We'll talk about the Supreme Court. And let's right now, before Katz is in the green room, let's just make a wager as to whether or not David Katz, renowned former assistant U.S. attorney, who's going to talk about the Supreme Court, talk about the expansion of the court, talk about term limits as a reality for the court. Let's talk about, just for a moment, let's wager as to whether or not he'll be able to get on without any technical problems. Now, let me just say this before you decide in your mind. I'd like to know in the chat what you think. He has never been on without technical issues. So you tell me right now in the chat, which way are you going? Yes, Joe says there will be technical issues with David. Yes, says Lynn. Gil, I assume that's a yes. Now, before you commit to yes, I will tell you that John has been back and forth with him. So,
I'm back and forth with him right now.
Okay. So it's possible that he gets through without, David will be having limited difficulties, says Ricky. Okay.
Well, right now he's trying to join by using the Google invite to the calendar. So it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's going to be a yes. But you know what? What we'll do is we're going to take him any way we can get him because we love him.
Oh, not only do we love him, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. I completely, So can he get on without any issues? No way, says Joe.
What I think is remarkable as somebody who has decades of experience troubleshooting and doing IT work, it's a different issue every week.
Yeah.
You got to give him credit for that unique original problem that he brings to the table every week.
I do want to tell you to smash the like button like a boss. Give us some likes wherever you are watching it in replay. Smash that thumbs up is all we need. And sit back and enjoy it after that. I also would encourage you to participate in the poll. This is the last day of the poll. The banner behind me, we have to decide what's going to happen. You have 4 choices. You see them in YouTube. We close that voting at the end of the live broadcast at noon. And then we'll put together the 2 percentages, the one from yesterday and one today. They're very different. It's weird because there are a lot of the same people voting. But maybe they've seen the light of day and they know we need to either move it over or scrap it. But that's all still to come. Is there anything else that I need to do? The Mark merch thing I mentioned, the discount is Iron Rod. It's up for another day at getmarkmerch.com. And you can get all the information on the show and how to support us at The Mark Thompson Show at
Click
Gmail.
like and subscribe.
I'm sorry, The Mark. Yeah, click like and subscribe. Subscribers are key. So the other thing, I do have one last thing I can tell you. It doesn't qualify as a major announcement. We will have a major announcement next hour on the poll results. But you can hit the bell. I never mention it. The bell for notifications when the show goes on. I know right now the show goes on 10 to noon. But as the show evolves, there will be other times that we drop certain content and even an episode. So I want you to be aware of that. Those who like the show, hit the bell. And that way you can see it right there under the video. And that way you'll know when we've dropped a little bit of content. It might only be 15 minutes or it might be 10 minutes, whatever it might be. But that'll keep you posted on when we drop additional material. So all of that. Now you're up to speed on YouTube as we all are. Anybody else? Comments, questions before we continue? David Katz next. I say he will have issues, and so does everyone in the chat. But he will also have great takes on so much. He is a brilliant guy, and I'm so excited to have David Katz on next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. A prisoner swap with the United States not being ruled out by Russia, but the U.S. State Department is not very optimistic about this issue. Previous attempts at prisoner swaps to bring Brittany Griner and Paul Whelan home so far haven't panned out. Former President Trump does not have, quote, absolute immunity in his attempts to overturn the 2020 election. That, according to a federal judge. A lawsuit filed by civil rights groups and others accuses Trump and the Republican National Committee of disenfranchising voters through their efforts to prevent the counting and the certification of ballots in the presidential election. The United States is putting up $53 million to help Ukraine's electrical system. The U.S. State Department says the funding is intended to help Ukrainians persevere through the winter. And Redwood City in the Bay Area is planning expanding its ban on new gun shops. The city council approving the ordinance last night to continue for another 10 months. During that time, they'll study zoning changes, take public input, and consider more regulations. The mayor calls it a land issue, saying regulating gun and ammunition shops no different than deciding where homes will be built or where people can buy cannabis. But one group is threatening legal action. And speaking of guns, gun owners in the East Bay city of Lafayette are being told to lock up their firearms. The city council passed an ordinance last night. They'll make it official at the next meeting. This is the latest Bay Area community to require people to keep their guns in a locked container. They're trying to reduce accidental shootings and help protect children from getting hurt. Brett Favre wants a judge to let him out of a lawsuit over Mississippi's misspent welfare money. Favre hasn't been charged, but newly released evidence shows the legendary quarterback knew that the millions he was paid for speeches was money that was tied to the state's welfare program. Favre's lawyers say attaching him to the lawsuit is purely a PR move. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, you can call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL or find him online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show. Do you feel it? It's The Mark Thompson Show.
Someone did this to spoil our Christmas.
It was obviously a mistake, and in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it.
You are high as a kite.
I'm ready for a new adventure.
I do hug and kiss people casually.
What he's got going here is a situation.
You can buy a Movado watch in Sam's.
No, no, no.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
What up, friends? Hour 2. So excited. First, some quick shout-outs. Wow, this is so cool. Joanne, you are such a great supporter of this show because I was able to buy my potholders at the Get Mark merch site, getmarkmerch.com. How about a shout-out and thank you?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joanne Blickensdorfer, for $10. Appreciate it. The deal is you go to the super stickers, the super chats, and you can leave us all kinds of donations that way. And the other way you'd go, if you want, and this is the best clearinghouse, I think, is you just go to themarkthompsonshow.com. And there's a PayPal link. There's a Patreon link. I'd love for you to sign up and be a regular contributor. But those of you who jump on in super chat and super sticker, I so appreciate it. Sadly, we have to shake you down for some kind of contribution every day. People who are in the YouTube world say, don't apologize for that all the time. That's the way this works.
I don't think you should apologize for the way you feel.
I don't think you should apologize for the way you feel.
Weird, though. You should apologize for how you feel.
It does make you feel weird. Exactly.
Because we're not used to that, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Yeah. So, but anyway, we are so excited to get the support of the many listeners and viewers. Find us at themarkthompsonshow.com. You can email us as well at themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Finally, smash that like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Hit the thumbs up and give us a like, even if you're here for a short time. This guy is amazing. I do want to shout out to Moskowitz. You can see Steve Moskowitz's information is scrolling bottom of the screen, 888-TAX-DEAL. He is our elite and exclusive sponsor. Speaking of elite and exclusive, I was just talking about this guy, former assistant U.S. attorney and criminal defense attorney. He's a brilliant legal mind. I'm so proud and honored, really, to have him in our mix. He is David Katz, everybody. Come on, put it together for David Katz. What up, David Katz? How are you, sir?
Hi. Great to be with you. Am I coming in audio and video, right?
You are. And
look at you.
All of you who said David wouldn't be able to do it and there'd be an issue, you're all losers.
There you
That's
go.
right. David hit the ball today.
Why are you yelling?
I'm yelling because I'm excited.
Why are you yelling?
Oh, I love it, David. You look great and you sound great. Now, thank you for being here. I promised everybody some talk about the Supreme Court, so I'm happy to talk about whatever with you always. But I wonder if you could give us a word about this court, which seems to be, listing to one side and has lost so much respect. I mean, you could argue that there was a politicized court always. I've heard that argument made, and I've heard it made soundly by some people. But, the rollback of what was claimed to be settled law and, it seems the clear compromise of certain justices. I'm wondering if you could speak to the court and the notion of both expanding it and also beyond that, what ethical standard might apply, and even term limits. Could that ever be a reasonable scenario for the court?
Well, the Dobbs decision overruling Roe v. Wade was really an earthquake. It was a breaking of precedent, and because it was such a well-established precedent, I think that really amazed people, and I think it made them really take heed of the fact that they have to really watch what the Supreme Court does and who's on the Supreme Court and the composition and the number of justices on the Supreme Court, because those are very important issues, which are actually up to the people. And not only do we have that really unprecedented, remarkable case, that reversal in Dobbs, but we also had Citizens United, a 5-4 decision, which was really strange itself. That made sort of this unlimited dark money the constitutional right under free speech of all these corporations. Who knew corporations even had free speech? They're not people.
No, but essentially the court said they are people, right, David? I mean, that was the decision.
Yes, and that they had these sort of untrammeled free speech rights that meant that they could contribute any amount of money that they wanted to. We just had a fellow, he lost down here, Caruso. He spent over $100 million of his own money to be mayor. That was his free speech. And at least you know who it's coming from. It was coming from Caruso. But a lot of this dark money, Mark, you don't even know who it's coming from because the disclosure laws never really caught up with the fact of what they did in Citizens United. So, of course, that was hugely controversial. Then Hobby Lobby sort of followed it. That's the one that's become controversial with Alito right now. We can address that in a minute if you'd like to. But sure. The Hobby Lobby one, now these corporations not only have First Amendment rights to speak, but they seem to have First Amendment rights to have a religion. Did I mention it's a corporation? And yet it's allowed to deny contraception. It's allowed to deny birth control advice because...
Again, just to remind people, that's what Hobby Lobby was going to court to do. They were saying, look, we don't want to pay for those things you're talking about, for contraception, these things that had to do with birth control because we don't believe in it. And it's our religious right to deny it to those employees.
But to have a corporation or an organization given privileges by the state, and yet it takes that tack, and the Supreme Court agrees with it 5-4. So both Citizens United and Hobby Lobby were 5-4 extreme decisions. On top of that, you have Heller, the gun control. Now, somehow, when the Second Amendment, the vaunted Second Amendment by the right wing, when it says the right of the people to be secure, the armed militia is connected very much with the right of the people to be secure. And so it was very clear to the courts for over 150 years that the Second Amendment only meant that you couldn't restrict the right to have firearms in a militia. These folks aren't a militia. A militia is state regulated, state approved. You can't form a militia by calling yourself the militia or calling yourself the Oath Keepers. And yet this has become another huge issue. So you add all of those together, and the voting rights in the South, that was the case where they said, you know what, we don't really need to have this Voting Rights Act have pre-clearance before people are vote in the South. That was the famous Shelby County case. So you add all those together, and that's one of the reasons they said, well, the South has gotten past that. There won't be problems with making them wait in long, making minorities, African Americans wait in long lines. There won't be the problems that we've seen like with the old poll taxes. Everything looks like it's hunky-dory in the South, the Supreme Court said. What does the Supreme Court, a bunch of lawyers, know about the political conditions or the voting conditions? But they stepped into that. So you add all that together. You had Shelby County, the voting rights. You have the Citizens United. You have the gun case, which is getting expanded, just got expanded this last term by New York Pistol Society. And then you finally have this Dobbs and Roe v. Wade. People really are at their wits' end what to do about this hyper-activist right-wing Supreme Court. So my suggestion, used to talk about this with Pat Thurston all the time. We talked about this when Breyer announced his resignation. I think we talked about it way back during Kavanaugh, was that the Constitution does not set, Mark, any number of justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. It hasn't always been 9. It started out being 5 or 6. Lincoln expanded it to 10. The Republic had other problems. We had a civil war at the time, but we had no problems on the fact that it went to 10 justices. Then one of them passed away, and they said, you know what? It'll be just fine with 9. The people who say it has to always be odd because otherwise they can never break ties, that's not necessarily true either. If they can't break a tie, then whatever the lower court decided remains the law.
Sure, the court is deadlocked on something. What's the big deal? Right.
Yeah, Lincoln did very well with 10 justices. But of course, it got a bad name adding more justices to the U.S. Supreme Court on account of FDR. FDR had a really harebrained scheme to pack the court. He had a Senate ally, and the Senate ally was going to be one of the new justices. And so he pushed the bill because he wanted to go out of the Senate where he had to face re-election and have life tenure and the honor of being on the U.S. Supreme Court. So with all of it, as popular as FDR was, this court packing got a bad name. As I said, it was a rather harebrained scheme where justices had to retire at a certain age, and then new ones came in, and they sort of sat together for a while. It was complicated. This one that I proposed, that many people have proposed, is very, very simple. You'd go from 9 to 11. The elegant part of 11 that might actually get some votes is that we'd be right back to where Chief Justice Roberts would break the ties. In other words, it would be a 5-5 court. There'd be 2 more moderates or liberals on it, and there'd be 5 with one view, 5 with another view, and Chief Justice Roberts would break the tie. Of course, the 13 would give the Democrats an out-and-out majority. They would presumably be moderate or to liberal Democrats. They would vote with the 3 Democrats who are moderates to liberals on there right now, and you would have with 13, you'd really have a 7-6 Democratic majority, which I'm not sure in my lifetime we've had a Democratic majority on the Supreme Court. I think maybe during LBJ for a brief period of time. But, you know, Chief Justice Warren, who was a wonderful Chief Justice, he also went to Berkeley like I did. Have to plug Berkeley's law school. He was a wonderful justice. People forget he was a Republican. Brennan was a Republican. Souter was a Republican. Stevens was a Republican. We haven't always had this thing where, well, as soon as you know they're a Republican, you know that they're going to vote for things like Dobbs. They're going to vote for things like Citizens United. Stevens and Souter were very balanced. But we're not in that era anymore, Mark, which is why I took the time to go over some of the decisions that have really animated people who think there's been a radical change in the law under this crew that's in there right now. Now, people say, Mark, that if you went to 13, as soon as the Republicans got power, when they had the Senate and the presidency and the House, you'd have to have all 3, which the Democrats have or have for another month. That was why I thought this was more feasible, although you never would have gotten, this would have had to break the filibuster. Manchin and Sinema never would have broken the filibuster.
Let's go back to, so in other words, in order to pull this off, you would have had to do what, David? You're essentially saying the chess pieces were not in place. Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. The Democrats had a majority in both houses. They still do for another month in the House. And so it's simple legislation. You pass a bill which says, previously we had a law that says that I guess the last time they passed legislation actually was when Lincoln put the 10th justice on the Supreme Court. That had to go through the Congress. Of course, the Congress was all Republican like he was then, because we had a civil war. The Democrats had mainly seceded, their states had. So it went to 10. Then I think there was legislation when it went back to 9, and there's nothing since then. So they would pass new legislation that there was 11 or 13. If it passed the House, it could pass by one vote. In the Senate, it could pass on a tie vote, except that Manchin and Sinema, for any kind of major legislation, will not allow majority rules. They won't allow getting rid of the filibuster. So they definitely would have filibustered this bill. So the reality was it would not have gotten through the Senate. Now it probably can't be enacted because the House won't even pass it in the first instance once it becomes Republican. But I think it's a good idea. I think it's one to bear in mind in 2 years. I think it's likely that the Democrats get the House back, keep the Senate, Biden or some Democrat gets reelected. And I think it's a serious thing because people have to ask themselves, especially younger people, do they want to live for the next 20 or 30 years being ordered about by this crew with black robes on the U.S. Supreme Court? It's become that politicized. That's what the polls show, that people view them as just another bunch of politicians, this crowd with black robes on. And there has been this diminution of respect for the U.S. Supreme Court. And I think that my proposal would actually restore respect for the Supreme Court, especially something like just 2 justices, just going to 11. My last point was that people say if the Republicans ever got full power back, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They would make it 15, and put 2 Republicans on there. But again, what's the alternative? To live with this 9, to live with the 6-3 Republican supermajority? And you know, it's Chief Justice Roberts isn't the savior on all these cases. He didn't vote with, he would have done less. He would have had the 15 or 16 weeks, whatever it was, say that was the law. He wouldn't have overruled Roe v. Wade. But he was gung-ho. He was the 5th vote on Citizens United. He was the 5th vote on a lot of things. So these people who are waiting for Chief Justice Roberts. But what I'm saying is it would be more palatable, Mark, I think, to people. Now let's turn to term limits. Can we talk about that?
I just want to, yeah, absolutely. And I want to just note diminution is a ding word, please. Yeah, thank you very much. You really stated it right. But before we move on to term limits, I just want to one more little round off this point you're making, because you're helping me. I'd thought that you needed congressional approval the way you're suggesting, but then I believe it was David K. Johnston, who we have on, who's going to join us again next week, who was making the point that the president can literally expand the court on his own. Is that not right? On his or her own? I know, you know. But you're saying it takes congressional approval. Go ahead.
He or she could make a recess appointment. So some of the people, after Scalia passed away, and there were 8, there was a vacancy on the Supreme Court. They could have put Merrick Garland on the court. Obama could have put Merrick Garland on the court as a recess appointment, and he would have served like until the end of the year. I think that Merrick Garland and Obama both saw that would seem like trying to push their way into something that they were going to get without pushing their way. They really believed, I think both of them, that some senators would be brought around. I mean, all the people who never agreed to have Merrick Garland's name come up, they included Murkowski, they included Collins, they included Romney. If those 3 had gotten together and said, no, this is a really good candidate, fair is fair. Scalia died almost a year before the election. We do not leave the Supreme Court with only 8 members for a year before the election. That's not what precedent shows that we ought to do. And so let's bring Merrick Garland's name up and let's have an up or down vote. He either gets 51 votes or he doesn't. Those 3 were not willing to do that. So McConnell was able to never put the nomination up before the Senate. And I think that Mr. Johnson's point was that Obama could have made a recess appointment and it would have been sort of a fait accompli that he was there. But the Republicans could have said, we don't like your fait accompli and we don't like you, Garland. So you know what? He just thought that it would. I think that Obama and I think Garland also thought it would antagonize the Senate, which could be persuaded. But you see, McConnell was not persuadable.
They thought it would be playing a little too dirty and aggressive, and then it turned out the Congress itself, McConnell and others, were playing even dirtier and more aggressive.
Except the way it turned out, assuming that Trump had won, that would have been the end of Merrick Garland's time on there. You can't stay on. So his recess appointment would have ended. He would have been off the Supreme Court. And I think after that, he would never have been approved as I think there were a few who voted. There were quite a few who voted for him, Republicans, as Attorney General. No life tenure, not one of the 9 on the Supreme Court. But I don't think he would have gotten any of their votes. He would have been perceived as having, as you say, kind of put his big foot in there when he should have gone through the confirmation process and been confirmed and gotten on there. So the president cannot expand the number of justices on the Supreme Court, not by even one justice, but he could have replaced a deceased justice, at least for some period of time.
Now, on to what you were talking about, which is term limits. Go ahead.
Well, here's why I don't like term limits. First of all, it wouldn't apply to anyone who's on there right now. So Alito may live to be 90, okay? So it'll never term him out. He'll be on there till he's 90. The other ones who live, Kavanaugh and what's his name? Kavanaugh, I always forget his name. Gorsuch, they may live to be 95. It won't term them out. Meanwhile, who's going to be appointed next? Probably a Democrat, okay? Or maybe somebody moderate by the Republicans. They'll have, let's say, a 15-year term. So I don't see where that addresses the problem of this radical right-wing Supreme Court supermajority that's either 5-4 or 6-3, it seems, on every case that we have right now. And the other thing with term limits is it will create, I think, an unseemly situation. Let's say it's a 15-year term where the person then goes on to be like a Supreme Court advocate after they've been a Supreme Court justice. We have that in the law all the time. I'm a federal criminal defense attorney after having been an assistant U.S. attorney. You can say, well, if that's good enough for you, that's good enough for you, Mr. Katz. Why isn't that good enough for the person who has a 15-year term on the Supreme Court and then they're a Supreme Court advocate? I don't know. I don't think that's when you see, why are we going to go to that system? Why are we going to go through all of that of having term limits? And I believe that one, you do have to amend the Constitution, because I think on term limits, it says right in the Constitution that the justices will serve during good behavior.
And you know you're not going to get it through Congress. I
think you have to do a constitutional amendment, Mark. I don't think getting it through Congress is enough for term limits.
Well, I know constitutional amendments is certainly beyond the pale, right? I mean, that's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just move on to Alito and Alito. I say Alito to Alito for a moment, and the violation of ethical standards. Can you just give us a quick summary of that in our last few minutes? Explain why this investigation started, or why this, there was this. Well, it was an investigation, essentially. The legal counsel, looked at things and made a judgment and a statement that Alito didn't make any ethical violation. I wonder if you could speak to that real quick.
Sure. Soon after he was appointed, I had a chance to meet Justice Alito socially. A delightful person. He did not give me any heads up on any U.S. Supreme Court decisions. And I honestly don't think, although I disagree with him politically and philosophically and what he's done on the U.S. Supreme Court, I just don't believe that there's evidence that backs this up. When I think there is evidence behind something, Mark, I say so. When I don't think there is, from what I've seen so far, I say so. But the allegation...
And just take a moment, David, to explain. There was an allegation that essentially the judgment that was going to be handed down by the High Court was tipped ahead of time.
Right. And so when we had all of this commotion over the leaking of the draft of the Alito decision in Dobbs, I guess he's a preacher, a minister.
Right.
At that time, he was very pro-life. He was involved in all of that, and he had some rich friends, and his rich friends had given a bunch of money to the Supreme Court Historical Association, and they had a dinner with the Alitos socially. Supposedly, at that dinner, this decision was leaked, and he was told about it. Those two deny. One of them is dead. The woman in the couple, denies that this happened. But the minister says that the decision, how it was going to come out, the outcome was leaked to him, that he knew it was going to be by Alito, and it was going to be 5-4 to affirm Hobby Lobby's supposed constitutional right to not give contraception or abortion services as advice to their employees because they were a religious organization or religious corporation or whatever, and therefore they didn't have to comply with this part of Obamacare. But the only person who says that this happened, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, is this minister. And this minister has now sort of reinvented himself as a progressive minister. And so you can say, Mark, that he does have sort of a motive to make Alito look bad, to generate this storm of controversy. And on top of that, the New York Times said that there are emails which supposedly back up that he had some prior knowledge, but I didn't see them in the New York Times story that I read, and I looked very carefully for them. So I think without proof that that happened, by the way, Alito has denied it. He denied that he leaked anything, that his wife had leaked anything. He did admit that he had this social dinner with these rich right-wing Republicans who'd given a bunch of money to this Supreme Court Historical Association, it's called. And so I think that particular one, I don't think is really going to go anywhere. Like I said, I think that the solution to these problems is really to have 11 or 13 justices on the Supreme Court. And let me emphasize this again. It's a mere act of Congress. We don't need to amend the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't call out 9 members. It doesn't call out 6 members. We could change this by legislation. A few more senators. Everyone should go out and vote next week down in Georgia for Warnock, in my opinion. I hope I'm not politicizing or editorializing too much.
You're allowed. You're allowed. I mean, you don't want to.
Herschel Walker. I am not for Herschel Walker. You could.
A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Can I ask Mr. Katz a question about Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife Ginny? They haven't been charged with anything. There's no crime alleged, but a lot of people have been calling for them to meet some type of consequence for basically conduct unbecoming a Supreme Court justice. What are your thoughts? Is anything on the horizon for how that might be dealt with?
Well, they may, as to the wife, Kim, she may be involved in some criminality with those alternate slates. She called down to Arizona. January 6th committee was looking into that. I think the Department of Justice now is looking into that. Remember, that case went up to the Supreme Court. They were trying to quash the subpoena that had been issued to that Arizona official. That Arizona official was in contact with Ginny Thomas. Ginny Thomas also had some relationship with this Oath Keepers fellow. Pat used to call him the Yahoo. I called him the Yale Who. He's the one who remarkably went to Yale Law School, which is, Thomas's school. There's a lot of people who, were on the Oath Keepers that you wonder why on earth that was this former U.S. Supreme Court clerk. This former Yale law graduate. Why was he involved in this right-wing insurrection? And why on earth would Ginny Thomas have been in any sort of contact with him or with these other insurrectionists? She was forwarding emails that were really inflammatory, tweets that were inflammatory. So she may have her own consequences. But at the end of the day, I don't think Clarence Thomas is going to have any legal consequences because there's no group that has the authority to really review the ethics of the U.S. Supreme Court. People think Chief Justice Roberts could do it. No, he has no authority to tell the other justices what to do. He's an administrative chief. He's not a chief in terms of power to tell them what to do. So, Kim, unfortunately, while I'm very offended that he gets himself in these cases where he obviously should recuse himself, I really don't see what else they can do. They could investigate him in the Senate. The Senate will still be Democratic. And the Democrats in the Senate could certainly investigate this. They could subpoena people. There's no reason why they couldn't subpoena a U.S. Supreme Court justice like Clarence Thomas. But what goes around comes around. How fast do you think that there'll be a House subpoena after that to to one of the liberal or moderate U.S. Supreme Court justices? And they've shown already, McCarthy and his crowd, that they love playing payback. They're going to keeping Martha, what's her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for keeping her off committees after she just about threatened Pelosi's life and made these crazy remarks about there being a Jewish space beam or something like that out in the heavens. Now they're going to retaliate by not letting Adam Schiff, a distinguished legislator, serve on any committees. I mean, so at some point, the payback, you can't worry about the payback, but I think with the Clarence Thomas subpoenaing him to the Senate, I just don't think it's going to go anywhere. So I'm sorry, Kim, because I wish there was some remedy in the law.
You are seeing this sort of being compromised in plain sight in a way that, at least in my lifetime, I've never seen it. I think that there was always, as I say, a political agenda. Many of these appointments, maybe all of these appointments, are driven by some sort of agenda, and maybe some of the agendas are lofty, but this degree, as you suggest, of collusion about in terms of participating in a coup and a power grab and overturning an election, it just seems beyond the pale, and yet it's where we are. All right, now I see we've got to wrap up. Look, it's a real luxury to have you here, David Katz. Congratulations on joining us without any technical issues. Whatever you did this week, David, do it again next week. This is terrific. I was betting on you.
It was great being with you. And Kim, it's nice to hear your voice. You were on with Pat and me for how many years now?
A long time.
Great stuff to the show.
Yeah, but this time we get to see you in your nice, crisp shirt and tie.
Oh, listen to that.
Even better.
Yeah.
We're moving on up.
It's pretty great. Pretty good, David.
There's never been anything like this.
That's right. There never has been anything like it. All right. David Katz, everybody. Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Rock on, my friend.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow. We are getting late, aren't we?
You're down to 5%
I can
battery.
see that. We got to get to Kim.
That's my fault. I did it.
No, it was great. Smash that like button like a boss for David Katz. Great
Smashed it
font
with
of
your
knowledge. And
iron
as
rod.
a matter of fact, he'll be back next Tuesday, joined by, this will really be kind of a power hour. We haven't quite worked out how we're going to do it. But he'll be joined by David K. Johnston in the hour, probably. So you can imagine that's really great. Legal minds, governmental minds. It should be a super solid hour with both those guys. So looking forward to that. Should I update the... You want to do it when I come back, John? Or when should I update the poll, please?
After we come back.
Okay, when we come back, we'll update the poll. And the poll about the banner, if you haven't voted yet, still a few minutes to do it. Still a few minutes to do it. And we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-STEAL. Congress is scrambling to avoid a pending railroad strike. After months of negotiations between unions and rail companies, the Biden administration brokered a contract in September to avert a strike, but workers voted against the new deal. Now the new deadline to reach an agreement is December 8th. Colorado Governor Jared Polis wants to expand the state's red flag law following a mass shooting at a club in Colorado Springs. Such orders allow law enforcement to remove firearms from those considered a significant risk to themselves or others. The Democrat reportedly wants to include district attorneys among those who can file for such an order. A man is in custody after climbing the outside of a high-rise hotel in downtown Los Angeles today. Firefighters say they got the suspect down at about 9:30 Pacific time this morning. Not known why he was climbing the JW Marriott next to the Crypto.com arena, but authorities labeled it a behavioral emergency. Twitter is no longer stopping misinformation about COVID. A new update as of last week has the company not removing or tagging misleading information about the pandemic. The social media platform's new CEO, Elon Musk, has talked about his commitment to free speech on Twitter. He's also openly criticized stay-at-home orders in the pandemic in the past. This as COVID cases in California are on the rise. And 10 University of California campuses are preparing to start finals in the middle of a strike. It's the third week of 48,000 student workers off the job. They are demanding better pay and benefits. About 300 faculty members are showing their solidarity by saying they won't teach or grade for the time being. And for some students, that means final exams could be canceled, with classes ending as early as Friday. Again, that's at the UC system. A public hearing to be held this week on whether to force some San Jose businesses to move. The Valley Transportation Authority is considering starting the eminent domain process. That's because it wants to buy downtown buildings so BART can extend service to San Jose. Other locations would reportedly delay that plan, but owners are refusing to sell. And the Bay Area is starting another buyback program for older cars and small trucks. Owners can get up to $1,200 for vehicles made before 1999. The move an effort to help reduce pollution and improve air quality. And one Marine veteran is making the best out of her prosthetic leg by turning it into a beer glass. Annika Hutzler was seen on the Jumbotron at the LA Lakers game yesterday, where, hey, Mark Thompson was there too, pouring a beer right into her prosthetic leg and then chugging the drink as the crowd cheered. Did you see that?
No, I missed that,
missed
sadly.
that?
Yeah, I just...
What?
Yeah, well, it is in the what category.
Well, Hutzler had her leg amputated in 2019 after a tumor couldn't be removed from her foot. She was awarded a gift card for being the fan of the game. You didn't get the fan of the game award?
Yeah, you'd think. I don't think I make the top 5, actually, sadly.
I don't know. She got the fan of the game award for her drinking antics, but the Lakers fell to the Indiana Pacers. That was a close one, 116
It was a buzzer
to 115.
beater. It was a buzzer beater at the end. I mean, it was crazy. I was going overtime, and then they hit a buzzer beater. And then that guy hit the $75,000 in the first hour.
Yeah.
For those of you who missed it, I showed the video. I shot it last night courtside. Guy hit a $75,000 half-court shot. And that guy needs Steve Moskowitz. Otherwise, he's not going to keep much of that money.
That's
true. That's the problem.
I bet it's taxed differently, like a bonus tax
We'll
or
ask
luxury
him. Steve's
tax.
coming up. We'll ask him. Yeah.
Speaking of which, the news sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz for more than 30 years. Steve, who we love dearly, has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. Who does not need help with their taxes this time of year? And we've got the guy for you. 888-TAX-STEAL by phone or online, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
What up, everybody? We're finishing up. It's our last half hour, and it's a real cool thing. I mentioned Steve Moskowitz just a moment ago, as we do, because he's the guy keeping the lights on. He's our elite and exclusive sponsor. How about it for Steve? So, Steve, last night I'm at this basketball game. I showed the video in the first half hour of the show. And, at the break, between quarters, they sometimes do some stuff. They'll have a dance cam. They'll have a kiss cam. They'll have all this stuff. So they had a half-court shot, that if the guy hits it, they give him $75,000. And normally it comes close or he'll hit the backboard, whatever. The guy hit it. I mean, nothing but net, okay? So they give him the check, the big oversized check for $75,000. And my question to you is, how much of that money does he actually get to keep? I mean, from the tax man.
Well, the first thing that we have to get into is it taxable or not? So the question is, did he enter into it for compensation? And if he did, then what are his expenses? And then
I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it.
This is my daily life, Mark.
This is great.
Why are you yelling?
Because it's exciting. You think, well, it's a gift, and it's going to be taxed as a gift. But Steve has already figured out a way it won't be taxed as a gift.
So what we have to do is we have to take a look at it, see what is it, and then do we have expenses that go along with this? For example, there are situations where, a lot of sports give things away. So is he gone into a sideline business? Is his side hustle where all his tickets are deductible and his travel? Again, I'm not saying that he can do that, but we have to
all of his
explore.
tickets? Like every time you ever bought a ticket to a Lakers game?
This is genius.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, well, we'd have to see. So basically that's what you do. It's not just, okay, he got 75 grand. Well, all right, that's great. Now, first, is it taxable or not? We have to figure that out. And then if it is, what can we deduct against that? Not to mention the fact that the year hasn't ended. So one of the things I would take a look at is, well, wait a minute. Can we set up a business entity like with a pension and offset his earnings with that pension? A lot of times you can do these things. And you say, well, okay, do I have to do that by the end of the year? December 31st is coming along. Now, a lot of stuff you do have to do by December 31st, but with a pension, you have up to the time of filing the return, including extension. So for this guy, he might have until September or October of 23 to set up the pension, put the money in, and then instead of paying that big check to the IRS, he puts money away for his own retirement. Sure. Then these plans are they're so flexible that one of the things you can do is you can make multiple plan year contributions in one calendar year. And for business, that works out real well. When you have a boku year, you have something special happen, you made a lot of extra money. So with this guy, assuming that's the case, we might want to put in multiple plan year contributions in one calendar year, and by doing that, offset the 75 grand he got. So there's so much that you can do, and most people don't even think about that or realize it. And that's the first thing I think is, well, look, given a choice between paying taxes and putting money away for your retirement, and then you say, well, wait a minute, if you do that, then his earnings on the retirement plan are not taxed while they're in there. So you have an investment that's not being taxed while it's in the investment plan. And that grows and grows and grows, obviously a lot bigger and faster because you're not paying taxes. I could go on, but, and again, this is totally impromptu. I didn't know this was coming. Imagine if I had a few minutes to think about it.
Yeah, this is off the top of your head. You've already saved this guy a bunch of money. I love this. Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. This is the resource that is Steve Moskowitz. Literally, we just dumped this on him. He had no idea, and he's already got a whole plan for this guy to keep more of this money than he'll likely keep otherwise. 888 Tax Deal, 888 Tax Deal, whatever your tax situation. Maybe you're behind on your taxes. Maybe you're fearing the bill that you'll owe. Call Steve. Get in touch. There's so many ways he can help you. ERC, the government money, 888 Tax Deal, 888 TAXDEAL. You can also reach him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve, awesome. Great stuff. You really hit the ball. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Love it, love it, love it. What a guy. What a guy. Yow. Mm-hmm.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What's happening with our poll, John? Can we, does it qualify as a major announcement yet or not?
Well, I don't know, but I think we can deduct it on our taxes.
That's a thought. Wow.
Would you like the latest numbers?
So remind everybody who's just joining us, there's a poll going on. It's only going on for the length of the show. There'll be other polls to follow, but this one is about something that you see every day now. This is the banner behind me. Okay.
What should we do with the Mark Thompson
What should
show
we
banner?
do with it? Yeah.
So your first
I'm
option
for dumping
is
it.
keep
Go
it.
ahead. Okay.
The first option is keep it.
Yes.
I've noted that as the spite option if you want to.
If you want to get back at me because I hate that. Yeah, you keep it. Right. You vote
the second option is move it to the right.
Right, which I think makes the most sense probably.
The third option is auction it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have bury it already. We are leading with auction it off, 33%.
Wow, that's pretty strong.
But keep it and move it to the right are tied for second place with 29%.
Well,
it's never easy in this business.
Will you resolve this, John, today? Or are you going to resolve it after the show and we announce it tomorrow? How is that?
We'll announce it tomorrow, and then members of the chat room will sue.
I see.
And then
of
we'll
course.
have to go to court.
Well, it's these are tough times, of course.
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
No, it certainly isn't.
And this is a Diebold poll, from the
from the Diebold people. Oh, that's really I didn't even realize that. That's extraordinary. Well, let me just quickly give a couple of pieces of recognition. I saw $20 super sticker. Was that or what was that?
Yeah, I have to go back because we're doing two things at once.
Oh, here we go. Andreas, yesterday I talked about Andreas and how important he is. There are a few standouts, okay? There is a little mini Hall of Fame right now, and Andreas is in that mini Hall of Fame. Andreas Masuras is someone who's donated a lot. I mean, these $20 and more than 20 and 20 in one show, and I see him on Nikki's show all the time. He's a great supporter, and I mean it sincerely. In a rare moment of sincerity, I'd like to truly thank you. These moments where I acknowledge you, they really are sincere. I don't think we can do this without you. So, Andreas, you're in a special category. I'm not gonna, but I'm capable of.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
Being moved to emotion that I typically. I am going to give you a big Dan Ashley shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a little.
Thank you so much.
Little thank you so much, and a British.
Thank you so much.
British thank you so much, and I'm going to give you a thank you very
much.
Oh, that's Will Smith. Sorry, Will Smith.
Thank you very much.
Now, thank you.
Thank you.
That is my full range of thank yous. You get it, Andreas, and we adore you. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Really, really cool. So, yeah, good stuff. Oh, is that Michael? Michael Herman. Come on, Michael. Shout out to Michael. Give you a big Dan Ashley shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for $19.99. Appreciate that so much, my friend. Thank you. Beth Farmer for $19.99. Check out Beth.
Thank you. I
give you the 4 thank yous, Beth. Mossware Pro Audio, they donated in the first hour, and they donate now. That's wild.
Why are you yelling?
They're the maker of the Honeybee Vacuum Tube Mic Preamp. Have no idea what it is, but man, it sounds cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mossware Pro Audio. Very, very cool. Michelle Forbes with a super sticker for $3. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, right on. Mario Diaz, hi, Mark. Instead of auctioning the tarp, why don't you consider a raffle? Oh, that's an idea. We'll take a meeting on that. I'd take a meeting on a raffle.
Is it a wild idea?
It just might work.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It just might work. We'll take a meeting on a raffle. Yeah. Mark needs some artificial tears next to his computer. I do need, I will tell you a secret. I am a crier. Like, I'm moved to emotion easily. It's a bad thing, believe me. It comes from my mother. My mother is a crier, and I got it worse than she has it. So I'm very moved by people's stories. I'm very moved by situations. I'm very moved by people's pain. But I mean, it's insane, really. So in a way, and this is, again, in a way, it's funny that I do this. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. We just found it, and it's kind of a fun little thing we do because I really am a crier. Like I can, just even, it's weird. You always wonder those actors, how they're able to make themselves cry on, it's like, man, I get it. I do. But I truly appreciate the donations, and I will get fake tears going for you. I just feel it's generally inappropriate for me to be in tears all the time on this show, so that's why I really avoid it. But if I miss anything while I was speaking, Kim, did I miss anything? No? No.
No.
Okay. Auction or raffle is what the question is.
It just happened. We could have waited till next time, but I feel it's close enough, right?
Joe Fong, super sticker.
Big shout out.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Joe.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Joe. Thank you for $9.99. Thank you so much, Joe, for watching regularly and making a contribution. Appreciate that. If you want to become one of our patrons, you can go to themarkthompsonshow.com. themarkthompsonshow.com. You have to put the in there. If you don't, you end up at the site of a Christian ventriloquist.
That's very Southern California of you to put the in front.
Yeah, you got to put the in there, man. You, by the way, might enjoy the Christian ventriloquist. I had nothing against him. It's just not our site. Ours is themarkthompsonshow.com. Yeah. He is good. I've watched him. Yeah. And I even would love him to be a guest on the show sometime. Maybe for my birthday, John, you could get the Christian ventriloquist in.
That's what you want for your birthday?
It is. Yeah, oddly, I try to set the bar low, and I'll give you a big thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
For setting that up. But themarkthompsonshow.com has a link to our Patreon, so you can become a monthly patron, and PayPal if you prefer. There's that as well. And there is a huge sale right now at getmarkmerch.com. That's where we're selling the merch, but there's also all the cool merch that's not just the cups and T-shirts, but they have ladies' tee, long sleeve tee. They have the that thing that Kim wants, and then the other thing that Kim wants.
The touch tool.
They've got the throw pillow and the touch tool. It's crazy.
I want to use my touch tool and my throw pillow together.
Enter Iron Rod at Disc Checker. I want to know more about that, and yet I don't want to know more about that.
No.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. So continue voting. That's your update on all things show related. If you are kind of casually watching World Cup, this is a one and done type situation today for the U.S. They are, as you know, against Iran today. And they lead 1-0, by the way. 1-0, I think is the way they actually say it. And then 1-0.
Did you see the way the Iranian reporter went after the members of the U.S. team?
No, I did not. I didn't know what happened.
So they took the U.S. team took the symbol off the Iran flag on their uniform, some such like that. They dishonored Iran by tampering with their flag symbol.
Well, it's the part of the flag that is religious and tied to the Ayatollah. Exactly. So the original flag did not have that symbol.
And they did it because, to support gay rights, I believe.
No, it's for the woman who was killed.
Okay, so they did that. They did. See, misinformation over here.
No, John knows this because he's a Persian.
So, John, did you see the interview with the? So the Iranian reporter, they just like unload on the U.S. members of the U.S. team, start talking politics with them, and then how can you be proud to support a country that has so much racism in it? Talking to an African American player and to the coach, talking politics and all kinds of things.
Wow,
it got to the point where. Other reporters were trying to step in to diffuse the situation, but I was really proud of the way the U.S. team and coaches handled it. They just took the questions head on, and honestly, it was good.
So it was the local United States soccer organization that took the symbol off the flag when they reported the score. That was on the local American soccer organizations social media.
It wasn't FIFA,
and they planned to do it for 24 hours and then they put it back. So it was meant as a protest due to the human rights violations towards women in Iran.
Huh. Wow. Well, it's definitely
what you say is the political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Iran has threatened families of players on the Iranian World Cup team with violence and torture if the players don't, quote, behave in the match against the United States men's national team today. A World Cup security source says that Iran has a, quote, large number of security eyeing how the players act while in Qatar. Additionally, the source said Iran coach Carlos Queiroz, I don't know, I'm sure he doesn't say it that way, but that's the way it's spelled, met with Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps officers following these threats, but it's unclear whether that was what the meeting was about. Prior to Iran's first World Cup match against England, that was last week, the team did not sing along with the national anthem while it was played. So there are a lot of these, or at least a handful of these, pushbacks against the ruling party in Iran, and they're taking on that form, and Iran is not happy about it. And they're doing some things that
it's like, why can't it just be a soccer game? Why does it have to be all political and weird and creepy? Why can't it just be sports?
Because nothing is just sports. Mm-hmm. Nothing is. I mean, it's all, well, it's just a baseball game. Well, it's just a football game. No, there's money, there's sponsorships, there's identity.
Corruption, theocracy.
Yeah, that's right. Theocracy and corruption
lack of human rights.
Absolutely right. No, John is right.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
John, can you get it in order? It's theocracy,
I think it's fun. You're really good at this. I'm not good at it.
Andreas's wife is there. She's from there, and he says it's actually worse than what we're hearing on TV. He says she was told not to take any pictures or else, and I don't know what or else means.
Wow.
Oh, Andreas, I hope she gets home safely. That's scary.
Jeez.
Well, have you been following this other story with Iran? The Ayatollah's niece was arrested after she compared Iran's supreme leader to Hitler and Mussolini. She had I think like a 10-minute video. So she's part of the family, but she's her father is that's the branch of the family that's against the government. So that doesn't go over well with the Ayatollah.
Yeah, they're not big on criticism.
Yeah, dissent's not really a thing.
You know, the Hitler-Mussolini Ayatollah comparison probably will get you in. It'll get you a call at minimum, right? And in this case, they arrested her. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she put out I think it was on YouTube. She put out a statement where she condemned the government and called on international leaders to cut ties with Iran.
How long do we have? This is what she said exactly. How long do we have to witness oppression by political autocrats in any part of this world? Isn't the experience of Hitler, Mussolini, Ceausescu, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Khomeini, and his last one, Khamenei, enough? Wow, that's a gutsy thing to say. Her comments came in the form of video messages, John was saying.
Wow.
And she was on Twitter as well, with her brother posting it to Mahmoud.
She is a human rights leader in the country, and so she's been fighting for this for a long time. But the tide is turning with Iran. So everything I'm getting from my family is that the tide is turning. It's been boiling over for a long time, but my mother is convinced that this is it. It's going to happen.
The last time it felt like this was when the Shah was overthrown. Would you say that's a fair parallel?
Yeah, obviously not the same situation, but yeah.
Right. No, but I mean, that was a ruling party. Yeah. Very gutsy. She knew what could happen, says Immortal Tiger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ayatollah falling apart, Russia falling apart, China hopefully falling apart. So much turmoil. Yeah, what's going on in China, I'd love to spend a moment on that tomorrow. I think it's interesting beyond just the protests and the pushback, which are substantial. And maybe you don't even need to go farther than that to see the, what was that?
Sorry, that was Archie. He hit the table.
Oh,
Archie panicked.
Strong.
He panicked. He saw his own shadow. He saw his shadow and he panicked.
One of the things we're going to get going here, I hope, is cameras for everybody. We're going to have to do that. But I will concede that the challenges associated with cameras are.
He is hiding behind the couch. He is ashamed, and he'd like to apologize.
Guy. Yeah. Okay. It was wrong, right? Wouldn't you say?
I was wrong. Period.
Okay.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Okay, enough with the apologies. All right. I was just going to say, it's also, the last thing I'll say about China, and then we got to wrap up, is that their policy of keeping people in and essentially shutting down entire cities, it wasn't successful even in terms of containing COVID. So you see the problems, and I'd like to get into it tomorrow a little bit because there is something beyond just the shutting everything down. It relates to vaccines that were used in China as well. But I don't have time for it right now, but I'd love to get into it tomorrow. So
You're down to 5% battery.
I know. We're wrapping up. Dictators are really screwing up, says Mindy Lee. People worried about Archie. Archie's fine, I'm sure. This is wild, John. You saw this? Iranian courts have been known to sentence girls as young as 9 to death.
That does not surprise me, but hundreds of people have been killed.
That's really sad.
It's really horrible. And that reporter that you saw, Kim, most assuredly worked for the government-backed.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it.
The other channels have been shut down. Western media has been taken out of the cable systems. The only people who can see Western media are using satellites or the internet.
Well, we have to wrap up, everybody. Tomorrow, what's on the show tomorrow, John? We've got a pretty good show, as I recall. We've got Jeremy B. White coming in. We're going to be talking about California politics.
Nice.
Yeah, we might have Spencer Christian.
Wow, Spencer Christian.
That's a pending invite. We're working that out.
Pretty cool. I think he was fighting a bout of COVID, actually. Can ask him about that. But, we'll talk about California politics, the COVID numbers, which are up over 60%. We kind of bumped some stuff to get into that Will Smith stuff today, but I'm glad we did. And your thoughts about Will Smith were really were excellent. Nikki's show is next over there on the Nikki Maduro show channel, so you should check that out. Kim is going over that way, too. They've always got a great show. So, and by the way, Chip Franklin has a show. He goes on from 9 to 10. So he has his own channel as well, the Chip Franklin Show. So everybody's got a show. We appreciate you coming to this show. Smash the like button like a boss. Go to the
Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
And GetMarkMerch.com. Iron Rod at checkout for the discount.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Great show. Bye-bye.